Bass and Bonsai back in the house, and we're going to talk about everything that is controversial in the bass fishing world. There's a lot, but there's mainly two things. But we're going to talk about, to me, my least favorite thing to talk about, Roland and Scott Martin and forward-facing sonar. Those two things. It's not that it's my least favorite thing. It's like we just want to go out and fish and have fun. That's the main purpose of fishing. So to start this whole thing off, there's a lot of channels out there that have been following the coverage on forward-facing sonar, the good, the bad, the ugly, the whole controversy of cheating. Are you getting information during the periods that you're not supposed to? Are you paying for waypoints? Are you soliciting yourself, like going out there and look like, hey, do you know where they're biting at, kind of thing? It's illegal, and should it be illegal? And all that kind of stuff, and how big of a advantage do you get if you're buying waypoints, or if you're buying 10 grand or 15 or 20 or 30,000 for all the screens, and you got this forward facing unit? Is that the real cheating? Is both of them cheating, and all that kind of stuff? This is just my take on it, and if you're lucky enough to comment and during this live, you can also put in your take on it, and a lot of you be like, who cares, right? Because to break it all down, we'll have to talk first, if you start from the beginning, what's the most important piece in bass fishing, right? Bass, the fish themselves. That's the most important thing, right? You got to have those. And then, from then on, what do you add to that? Well, the fishermen. So somebody had to get out there and start it for us, right? It wasn't Roland Martin, but he's about that old, but there were people bass fishing before he was born. But what I'm saying is, then we turned it into a sport. It was just it was a way to catch the fish and eat the fish. And then it was kind of a sport fishing thing. And then BASS, Ray Scott, we turned it into, like a tournament and a fishing. So now it's a sport, and I'm sure it can be bet on, and they got all the different fantasy leagues. And now once you add money into anything, it kind of starts deteriorating after that, in my opinion. And I would be curious to some of you regulars what your true take is on it. I know what Charles's take on it. You guys know, if you're new to the channel, I fish with Charles a lot. Charles could care less for anybody that is considered like a tournament bass fisherman, tournaments and all that. He's out there fishing kind of to catch Andy, but also just the fact that he could go fishing every day if he wanted to. So he also just, we go for the fun of it, and we go out there and we, try to catch him. But he also goes spoon billing for meat, and put it in the freezer, hunting and all that kind of stuff. That's not me. I just fish for the fun of it. I don't want to get in a tournament. The few little rinky-dink tournaments I've entered, it just takes away my enjoyment and fun, starts turning it into work. So quick backstory, just why I think like that. So now my son also does it right now, but RC racing, I was kind of into RC. I was never good sponsored, that kind of thing. And I've never wanted to be sponsored in any of this, bass fishing or RC racing, but I just raced RC cars for the pure fun of it. We just go up there every, Friday night or Saturday nights or whatever night you race. During the week we would race too. And it was fun. And then I started working for my buddy Steve, who owned the track, and calling races and then working the counter. And then I ended up turning that for about, I don't know if I made it 3 years, for a few years as my only job. So I was running a crane and calling races as soon as I got off work. And that lasted about 6 to 8 months. I'm like, I'm not doing the 2-job thing. So anyway, once I turned my favorite thing to do into work also, it does take away from that. So the minute that you take, if you don't need to go out and bass fish for money, then don't. If you stick with your day job, if you can't sing and you really aren't that great at bass fishing, but you love doing it, you're doing the right thing. Stick with it. But so in the industry, right, it's like, what does it take to be a bass pro? Well, I guess nowadays it takes forward-facing sonar and ability to call around and buy waypoints and know where to go and stalk them points and, call that position and not let anybody fish there and all that kind of stuff, right? Or does it still boil down to the guy that's willing to go out there and put all the hours into it is what it takes? But you definitely got to have money nowadays to get kind of in it, just like you do NASCAR racing or any of that kind of stuff, right? So I'm not going to talk about that, the separation between just a true angler that's out on the water to have fun or the tournament guys. I'm going to just give you my take on because what's in the news now is Scott Martin, right? Scott Martin, oh, he's a cheater, and their guys are like, defending him. That no, he's just like there's a witch hunt going on right now because yes, they want to crack down on cheating, and they feel whatever Scott has maybe he's done his whole fishing career is just knows all these different people. I mean, I'm sure if anybody in this fishing business knows more bass fishermen than anyone else, it's probably the Martins in general, right? You've got Scott, Roland, and then I can't remember Scott's daughter's name, but she's even in tournaments and different stuff now. And you got people that own a marina. So word of mouth stuff's going to pop up. Is he soliciting, asking for it? Is it just coming? Or I'm not even going to get into all that. But as a whole, and on my fishing, BASS was something back in the day, and it's fading away. I'll be honest. And this is just my take on it. Like I've commented on Get Your Fish On, is where I finally commented on one of his videos. I've been watching a couple of his here and there, covering a lot of the different, controversy stuff. But I commented because, I'll be honest, because I also read a few comments on there of people talking about how the fact that Scott Martin means more to them about bass fishing than the BASS and all that. And that's the reason they got back into it or got into it in the first place. And just the pure enjoyment of fishing is why we all fish. Now, there's people just like the Little League baseballs and all that. They're out there. You guys know what I'm talking about. The parents that are pushing their kids. You can tell the kid doesn't even want as much as a parent. And they're trying to, turn them into this all-star pro kind of thing. I'm sure that goes on in fishing nowadays. And there's all these college things and all that. But the truth, where you're going to be able to keep bass alive is the people that they want to know. They don't want to invest like us. They don't want to fill their whole garage with tackle. They want to know roughly what they can go out there, buy, with reasonable amount and get out there on the water and have fun doing it. And they want to see other fishermen out there on the water having fun also while they're catching fish, even though they're doing it for money. And that's where the forward facing brings it down. But back to the Martins. And I'll be honest, I've made fun of Roland Martin for I don't know how many years because he sold me the helicopter lure for one. But because he was the first guy that just sticks in my brain of the minute he picked up something, he just would start rattling off the brand name, the Frog Togs, to the Lee pants, the Bill Dance fishing shoes, the Color Combo Select, the flying lure, the helicopter lure. He would just ramble off like he was a ambassador, first of all, for bass fishing, but then to all the sponsors that he had. He didn't even need to have the shirt on. At the end of a Roland Martin video, you knew everything that he had and was out there using. And Scott Martin actually does the same thing. He's good about that too. Now, several others are, but, some of you guys I know be like, and that's what I hate about him, right? But I always thought I don't know, I found it kind of funny just how he had that ability to just, and it's not like he's reading off a script. That's just in his head, and he knows, because I don't even know all the brands. I have a lot of times I'll go buy stuff, and then I'll have to go back and track it down because it started catching fish on any given time. I only had one of them. I did that with the Dig It back in the day. But for me, I definitely in the last, I don't know how many years, I would rather watch a Scott Martin video than any BASS tournament, because I really don't care who is winning with forward-facing sonar. I don't have it. I don't really want it. I think it turns bass fishing too much like crappie fishing, and I quit crappie fishing, majority of crappie fishing, unless we're really going to catch them to eat, because bass fishing is more fun. Same thing with catfishing. Now, there may be a lot of you that still like to do all the types of fishing, but I pretty much honed in on bass fishing because, and there's just a small sample here, but there's mainly chatterbaits and jigs. But, there's just so many ways to get out there and have fun catching them. It's kind of like if you're going to your favorite restaurant, if you really know how to eat food, you can go to the same place. I'm going to use a place up the street from me here, La Fuente's Mexican joint. They're like, oh, we always eat there, kids. I'm like, just get something different. There's like 15 different things that have a different taste to them at almost any given place. And bass fishing is kind of like that. And so forward-facing sonars push us into the little minnows, right? The little, they got this little tail back there and shakes, and you got to dangle it in front of them. Oh, man. Oh, there he is, right? And you just said that, first of all, I went out and tried to fish that way. Like, I call that crappie fishing. That's how we fish for crappie. So in my opinion, it makes it boring to go out and try to fish that way. I mean, if that's the absolute only way you can, seem to track them down that day and you have that technology, then I'm all for it, right? Just like I've turned to crappie fishing. I've got a few videos out doing that. I'm out there we go to this place. I'm like, man, this is a good place for bass. And for whatever reason, I start fishing and everything I'm throwing, even a big bait, I'll catch a crappie. Well, usually I just start throwing like a crappie more on my BFS gear, right? Because I want to have more fun for that given day. So I will, revert to that because I'm out just fishing for fun in the first place. And me and Charles sort of set out one day and went just for the little, I forget what he called them, Georgia Giants or something, these huge shell cracker like bluegill type panfish. So Scott Martin and Roland Martin, I believe, have been some of the biggest ambassadors for bass fishing as, sponsors, a tournament type deal, and, telling you kind of how to go in and out. Now, I don't know for sure, and I'm not even going, this isn't about I know proof on Scott Martin did this and did that, and he's cheating. Is he cheating according to rules? It's a possibility, but I'll put it to you this way. I believe Scott Martin is fishing how he always has. I believe Roland Martin fished that way. And I believe there's a lot of bass fishermen that are in tournaments that fish that way. Do they take information maybe longer than they should? Here's the thing, though. Even this channel right here, everything you track down on YouTube is informational type stuff, right? It should be a little fun and informational type deal. So when they draw that line, oh no, well, from everything on this side and everything on this side, that's fine. But this little window, you can't get any information on this place no matter what, which I understand that rule. So if, say, it accidentally comes in, but that you can, but it has to be the world has to have the information. So I want to go to Google Earth. I want to go, I guess anywhere I can on the internet and track it down. I read it, in a newspaper. I saw it on the news, right? First of all, whatever you take from somebody is still, it's their word. Oh man, I'm catching them here, right here. That's where I'm catching them. Well, did you catch one or two? And then you're calling that you're catching them. Just like I'd go out with my dad and we'd go look at a truck that was mint. Had this old Ford truck that was mint. You drive an hour and a half away to Versailles, Missouri from Kansas City. And it was a beat up piece of junk. Back in the day, we didn't have we'll take pictures of it and send them to me. This was back when nobody even had a cell phone. So there was no internet. But it's that kind of thing. You're still, and I get it. The rules are, and they should be enforced, but they should be an enforceable rule, and they should have been enforced from the get-go, in my opinion. Bad habits sneak in because you allow something, right? And what I think bass should do, I have no clue because I'm not associated with tournaments or anything like that. But I think if you start weeding out some of your bigger name, not the better fishermen, the bigger name fishermen. I'm just going to throw some out, and I'm not saying they're not as good as the next guy, but nowadays you get rid of some of these old school dudes that are still big names, Gerald Swindle, Mike Iaconelli, Scott Martin, Kevin Van Dam took himself out. Greg Hackney any year could be out of the stuff. And I mean, that's just a little sample of a bunch of guys. Then you got these no-name guys. I'll be honest. Just like NASCAR, to me, NASCAR, I don't watch NASCAR anymore. I know I'm giving off my redneck vibes, but back in the day when Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, before he got caught up in all his little cheating type things, does that take away from him? Chad Knaus did this and that. Even to Tom Brady with the football, Deflategate and this and that. Yes, it takes away from their championships and all that. If they were known to be doing something that's right there on the line or cheating, in my opinion, that's not good. But there's still this a brand you're pushing. Once you're, a big sport like that, and just like the NFL's kind of turning into stuff, we've got controversy there too. But as far as the fishing goes, your main thing are the information you can take the minute the dates are released, and it shows, for those of you that don't know, you're like, what is this dude talking about? The minute that Bass releases the dates and the places they're going to fish for that season, it's you can't take any more information. You could have been gangbustering into maybe flying personal planes around all the lakes, just speculating where they're going to be that year. And I believe all of that is legal. I believe I don't know if it's truly illegal to be getting waypoints from people up until that time, right? I mean, let's say if you're Elon Musk and you're into bass fishing, and you bought every waypoint that anybody would sell you, and then when that lake pops up, and then you pop that up on your computer, then you got GTB, all of a sudden they're winning you tournaments because they've got all that information locked in on at any given time of month, day, and year where they were catching them at on different spots, and then they go there, right? So, but anyway, the way the rules are, as far as I read them, you got this little window. So then after that tournament, if I'm not mistaken, after that tournament, so let's just use Okeechobee, for example. So, I mean, Scott Martin should have all the information he would ever need to know in any given time of day, year, whatever, to go fish Okeechobee. But let's say that the day after it was announced that, yes, there will be a tournament on Okeechobee, somebody came in and started talking. And maybe, and I'm just putting this out there, if you're this type of guy that you're like, what were you catching them on? Where are they biting? You know, or is the water clear or dirty up in, Glenn's Cove kind of thing? I don't know if there's even a Glenn's Cove in Okeechobee, but they're, oh, yeah, man, it's clear. They're definitely there. Like, does that count as cheating? It definitely is. If like you're going out and trying to get information because you heard it at this lake and you're like, oh God, I'm totally lost at this lake. I need information. So, and you can still get it, I think, but you have to be like a Google search kind of thing. You can't start trying to get private, like buying waypoints from somebody or whatever. But then the minute that tournament's over, also, then you're like, oh God, it's going to be at Okeechobee again before long. So then you can go back to resorting to whatever kind of way to get information for that body of water to, build in your library of information to, for further on down your career, right? And that's the way I take it. But to me, I understand the rule, but I think it's one of the stupidest rules there are, because one of the worst things about fishing in general is the fishermen's lying, holding their tongue, and not doing anything. Because if you guys don't know, it's never really talked about. But in most sports, in fish, that's why fishing, I don't really even consider, it's not we're on the same class. In most sports, if I have something that nobody else has, I'm cheating. If I have figured out a trick to whatever, right? The ball has to be a certain weight, balance, all this, the bats, like everything in a sport, cars have to be, certain weight, certain, restrictor plate, all this kind of stuff. Bass fishing is one of those where every new little secret bait, that's why half these baits that come out, when they first come out, the first couple years, these guys that are fishing them are dominating, maybe forward-facing sonar, electronic-wise, maybe the first guy that had side imaging, down scan, right? So in bass fishing, it literally allows you to come in with a bait and, win with it. And then once you win with that, then you put it out and then you sell it. Then the masses can go fish with it. But you literally won tournaments and won money, and you're going to win a lot of money by selling that bait to whoever. But then in all honesty, most baits, not all of them, some of them like a chatterbait, for example, not necessarily this one. Once they get out there and everybody starts fishing with them, a lot of them, the impact of it just, I don't know why, it's almost like bass have telepathy to talk to each other. It's not as effective as it was that first year to, couple years of being on the market. And we've seen it with the baits, and I've never had any insight, in any inside deals, because like when chatterbaits first come out, for that first few years, I don't know if I threw anything other than chatterbaits on any given time because they just worked so well. So you can imagine the guys that were fishing chatterbaits or the baits like it before they became, because I wasn't the only one that started fishing chatterbaits. But I'm just using that as an example of like, I don't know, in this sport, the way it's set up, like what is that fine line of cheating or not cheating? That's just like they come out with this perfect little minnow that does a certain thing. Nobody else has it. You're the only one that has it. You have forward-facing sonar. You're hovering right over the fish, and you're whacking them, and then all of a sudden, the guy that got an extra, I don't know, say his buddy or his buddy's buddy said, hey, man, give Charlie this waypoint because, man, I was really catching him there, and I heard he's going that lake. And then maybe that guy sends it to you, and you're like, dude, I'm not supposed to take this information, but then like, dude, I could win 100,000. I'm going to take this information. Now, I'm not saying that's me, because also there's bass fishermen out there, and the reason that was considered cheating because there's also people like me and Charles that are hard-headed. And I'm going to put it to you like this. And Matt, most bass fishermen, we're kind of have this like an ego thing, right? Like if we're out there fishing with our stuff and our gear, we may go to what you're doing, but we're going to try to use our stuff first, right? We kind of have our, it's kind of this honor code. We want to catch them, our way first. And my uncle, Shelton, he was one of the worst ones. Like he would be on a boat with, my uncle had this big 18-foot flat aluminum John boat. We would be out like, crappie fishing or bass fishing, whatever we were fishing for. Everybody kind of was fishing out this way. And he was always just off kind of doing his own thing. He didn't, and we'd be whacking him. He'd just, no, I'm over here. Now, I never did see him catch a giant doing that. But what I did witness, the biggest bass that was seen that day was from him throwing this way, and it jumped and spit the bait back out of him. But that day we were just crappie fishing, but he was out on the deep end, and they were just firing him up on the inside. But when me and Charles go out on the water, Charles is doing his stuff, I'm doing mine. And yes, eventually you fish with somebody long enough and you've never fished a chatterbait. Like Charles has chatterbaits now, and he used to be like, they don't bite chatterbaits down here. And I'm like, dude, you're not throwing them enough or right. But we kind of slowly will evolve to that. But we don't want to have to, like, in my opinion, I don't want to just go to a location and throw a bait just because a guy used it. Now, yes, you're seeing this pink one. And the only reason I've left that skirt on is, yes, I watched Lee Livesey catching them on pink, and I'm like, well, I'm going to give it another shot. I believe I tried some version of pink a while back. I think pink is pretty much the same as bright orange to a fish. I think that's how they see it. I think that's why the pink works at the roughly that hot pink, bright pinks work kind of like what orange does certain times, and other times it'll shut off and not be good. But, and this little sidebar, years ago, I don't know how many years ago, when the TRDs first came out, I still think that's TRD fishing is cheating, but because you can catch them when nothing else went on TRD. I found the power of bubblegum pink TRDs anyway when they first came out. I bought a pack of those, and I'm telling you right now, if you want to be humbled or humiliated, however you want to look at it, you set a kid up in the back. I don't care how old they are. They could barely be able to cast their own, and you're casting it for them. Tell them to reel it in slow. You hook them up with the bubblegum pink TRD, they're going to catch more fish than you. You're going to end up not even fishing probably, maybe a little dinks. Every once in a while get on something big. But yes, that crazy bubblegum pink is 100% a fish catcher, on probably any time, but on certain baits, especially like on TRD or something finessey. But then, yes, times when they're hitting those colors, something more aggressive like a chatterbait and other baits, right? So back to, like, fishermen just have kind of the honor code is what they see it as. Okay, these are the rules. I read the rule. Like Gerald Swindle probably put it the best of anybody I've seen. Like, he's like, I read the rule books. It's in the rules. You can't do this. You can't do that. You're doing that. You're cheating. Get them out of the sport, right? Which is, yeah, I hear you. That's what I would be like. Yeah, okay. But if those were the rules and this person just did this but like a lot or a majority of their bass fishing career, it's like, well, I don't know. Do you take them out? Do you leave them or do whatever? Mature Fishing Guy says, I have forward-facing sonar and don't use it. Yeah, I've been only on, I think the only boat I've ever been on was fishing with Matt. And we used his, like, I don't know if I may come back to Roland Martin, but I definitely think that they have been a positive. Maybe now they'll try to turn into a negative for the sport. The Martins, they've been cheating their whole lives and they don't know how to fish and all that. But I don't believe that. I believe it is sort of a witch hunt by somebody. Just for reference, this channel right here, like, I'm out here not harming anybody. This is just my take. I don't have any proof of anything. But when I first started this channel, there was somebody, the very first view would always be, like, there was somebody out to get this channel, and I don't know why, me basically, but I would get instead of a thumbs up, I would get a thumbs down. The very first person, and it was like they were sitting there waiting. They subscribed, And all they were that before the video, like I'd release a video that was a half-hour video, and 10 minutes in, it got a negative. And then that would be the only negative it would get. And then it'd get, 10, 20. It wouldn't get many when I very first started. It still doesn't get many. It only gets like 100 to 500 on the first week or two. Then it may go to 1,000, may go to 10,000, may go to 350,000 back when I was doing bonsai trees. But if you get somebody out there to get you that thinks they've got an inside information or whatever, and they start, calling you out, oh, well, they did this and well, they did that. And then you're the bad guy and you need to take this polygraph and this. And it could be that almost everybody is sort of doing something similar to that, because I've still yet to hear them say that, the minute it's kind of like a random drug test, right? You're not allowed to do drugs if you're driving a truck, and at any time you could be given a random drug test. But technically, you could be doing drugs for up to, who knows, a year or two before your name were to get called. So they're kind of doing random. And then I'll be honest, sometimes random isn't so random, because my old job where I used to work, we had a guy there. I'm just going to use his first name, Steve. Steve was a long-haired hippie, right? Guess who was the guy that got the most random drug tests sent his way? You guessed it. Steve, the long-haired hippie, over none of the cleaner, cut guys ever got, I don't know that I ever went for a drug test. Probably because they 100% knew I didn't do drugs. Steve didn't do drugs. I knew Steve. Steve was a little bit of a drinker, but he didn't do drugs. Anyway, so once they single you out or you've been caught, then they technically could be like, well, you're on probation, so we can test you, and then we're going to do this guy, and we're going to do randoms kind of thing. So some of you will be like, yeah, it's good that they're finally cracking down on it, which it probably is. But unless they do something, honestly, in the viewability of people fishing with forward-facing sonar and the amount that it could get to the masses cheaply to be able to afford it and be able to fish like the guys that are out there fishing with forward-facing sonar, they're probably going downhill. Now, what I hope happens is that it completely is taken, this is forward-facing sonar, taken out of BASS hands, any local tournament hands, and it's held by, and I know we need less government, but some stuff should be regulated to keep people, and this isn't the bass fishermen that are out there catch and release. This is the guys that just go out and will slaughter places and literally fish them out just because they think that that's the manly, tough thing to do, and they need meat for their table, and they're giving them to their buddies and whatever. They're out there. They're still out there, and you'd be like, well, Charlie, it's perfectly legal. I buy that. I paid my $12. I can go to this place, because in Missouri, it's still cheap. I honestly think it should be a little more money, and we should spend more time, spent on the bass, because back to the very beginning, the bass fish, therefore, the places that house the bass fish, that's the most important thing in bass fishing, whether you're doing it recreational, to put food on the table, or you're in tournaments, right? So, when is the last time, or where's the controversy of people trying to get money and actually broaden the horizons on that? They're just these lakes that have been around forever. Every once in a while, a new one pops up. But, where's just like they're doing in Texas, where's the regulations being put in so everybody gets a chance to catch bigger bass, right? Because we live in there was the Me Too. Now that's the Me Too of everybody else does this, so I'm going to do it. Like cheating. Everybody cheats, so I'm going to cheat. No, not everybody cheats. Promise you that. Not everybody cheats. Well, everybody keeps, big bass. No, not everybody keeps big bass. Well, everybody does this, or, everybody does that. Just because, and it's just like your parents told you, well, if Tommy jumps off a bridge, you're going to jump off a bridge too? And you were always like, yeah, I'm going to. But no, just because someone's doing something that you feel is harming or could harm something doesn't mean that it doesn't give you the right to do it. And that's my take on, just because we have the technology now to go out and hound, you could, I guess technically if you're good enough, maybe you could do it. You could do it with downscan, side imaging, and just your regular sonar. If you spot, you're like, dude, I guarantee that's a bass, and I guarantee that's a 10-pound plus bass. To chase it around your whatever body of water you're on, chase it around literally until you get it to either just bite out of Jesus, get out of my face, whatever it is, or you have snagged it because you're using something with the treble hook, or, who knows what can, what kind of shenanigans can and will or probably have been going on once you have that ability to chase around. Up until then, it kind of made a sweep, and so that fish could be here. Oh, he's over there. Oh, and so like even a whole school of fish was harder to stay on, right? To where now it's just like you're just watching it. And yes, there's still, there's some skill needed in that. Having it set up right and all that takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money before the skill comes in. You got to have a lot of money to have like your big screen. Now there's like the cheapest is like $1,000. Somebody commented on one of my channels, on one of my videos on my channel that there's some thing you can buy and put on your app on your phone that's only like $399. But in my opinion, once it does get cheaper, it's like, oh, cool, man, it's cheap now. I can go buy Live Scope or Mega Live 2 or whatever, man, and I can be out there doing it. But the problem is once everybody has that, I mean, what's it going to do to the bass? So, I mean, it's still one of those up in there, like, I don't know. What will it do? Will it destroy fisheries? Like, I feel that we can already kind of destroy some to a certain point. Like, the minute bass shows up at a place, I can just tell you my opinion. If I'm out fishing at my favorite lake, roughly around my favorite area, and I see a couple tournament guys, and I know there's this tournament there, and I'm like, there goes these spots, because, on big fish, nowhere I fish is it big enough that could happen, but, lakes in Texas, Florida that have just been hounded now. And then, you'll hear bringing Roland Martin back up. He's going to some of these places talking about, oh, there's still good fishing here and there. But yeah, it's still good fishing, but it ain't nothing like it was in the heyday. It may take a few years to get back, and most places will kind of come back. It's really not that it's sort of that it's been sheltered so long, but it took the environment area, the weather, the forage that's there and all that to kind of get them to that point. But once you go in and hound them, fishermen in general just get in there, and they're always going there, and they're vacationing there, and they're just hounding them. It's going to knock down any fisher. I don't care how good it is. It's going to knock it down a notch. Now, some of those lakes in Texas have the regulations and all that stuff. But in my opinion, I'll put it to you this way. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if they just banned all of, they have some kind of limits. I think, and I'm going to use Major League Fishing as an example, because I also watch Jacob Wheeler, and I'm not even sure if I like the guy, but man, he can go out and fish. Like, I'll just tell you the time that made me like Jacob Wheeler as a fisherman. And I don't even remember, I forget which tournament he was in, to where he was moving. Like, it reminded me of KVD back in the day, because if you ever watch a KVD video when he's on the water and you're like, man, how'd that guy do it for that many years? He never stops fishing. Like, he's out there talking and casting and reeling, like he's a moving fishing. That's just the way he's fished and won so many. So I watched Jacob Wheeler doing this, moving to whole different areas, changing different baits, and of course, Major League Fishing, all he's got to do is get here and he catches a bunch. All they have to do is be keepers. He can load up here, go there, look for bigger ones, and do this and that, to where BASS, you kind of want to look for a big bite and then stick to that pattern. It literally is a whole different way of fishing. But when I was watching Wheeler do that, I'm like, this dude knows how, like, he's a fisherman. He knows how to catch him. He knows how to move around. Some people call it junk fishing, but no, he can go and find, he can find a bite, and then he can go find another bite. I'll leave this one, go to this one, and he's checked them, and he kind of does his homework too, right? So what they've done though there is like they have periods and stuff. So they didn't change that, but they did change when you can use the forward facing and stuff. And so bass, in my opinion, they need to do something like that. I'm just going to give you a little, like, what would make forward-facing sonar fun to me, like in a tournament kind of sense, would be if I had to go to a smaller line. Like, I had some sort of handicapped, right? So I've already got an advantage. I'm using forward-facing sonar, but then I have a handicapped to the guys that either are off doing whatever, they're not using it, or the guys that are using forward-facing the traditional way. And I'm just going to, like, what I call bank fishing, like, so there's offshore structure type of fishing, and then there's bank fishing. That's kind of what we've always had. And then you could kind of get guys that knew how to deal with the suspended fish. But now with forward-facing sonar, literally anybody that wants to set and do that type of fishing can, because you can just follow that school around there. They're not really locked in any one spot on the bottom, and they're probably moving a little bit. Most of the fish I've encountered, they kind of have a little pattern in a day that they'll move around. Like if it's out suspended, they'll move, even if it's in the bank. Now, some of them stick to one piece of cover, and a lot of times that's your bigger fish. But the little ones are kind of, making their way around. And the little ones could still be 4-pounders, and the big ones are just 8-pounders or, whatever. But I think they need to add something, like a handicapped type thing if they want to keep using it and make it fun. Because for me, for forward-facing sonar to be fun, first of all, I'd have to go back to when crappie fishing was fun for me. I'd have to go to a light line because I see them. I know there's fish there. I know I'm going to catch them. So then I just want to know, I want to have that, I need a little extra, sportsmanship to it. To maybe I'm only using, 1 pound, 2 pound, 4 pound, 6 pound line. I'm using some line to where there's still a fighting chance that I'm not going to get any fish that I hook in. Right? It's not just let's just catch our, whatever limit so we can go clean them and eat them kind of mentality. And the same thing with forward facing in tournaments. To be able to watch that, if I know that guy's got line on that, dude, that thing could break him off. The minute he hooks any fish, he's going to have to be way more finesse. And you may say, oh, well, they're already using spinning gear, Charlie, and they're only using 10 or 12 or whatever pound line. 10-pound test. If you just tied on and it's new line and you're cast out there and there's nothing for that fish to break you off on, you can pull in giants easily with 10-pound test. Yes, there's a little more to it than just winching them in with 60-pound braid, which I don't like that idea of that either, but that's still the more fun way to watch them yanking them in, right? So I don't know. That's just my take on it. Is it cheating? I think it's just as much cheating as somebody that called somebody else and told them that, oh man, up in Miller Glen Point, they were biting last weekend because this is a new weekend, you don't know. Well, I'll go try it. Oh, that's cheating. But the guy that's got the $20,000, and maybe he bought a waypoint, 6 months ago from a guy, you don't know. Maybe he found a waypoint, maybe somebody just, hey, dude, I know they're going to come to this lake and you're going to want to know to try these spots, right? Because he's his buddy, right? That's legal. So I don't know. There's just this fine line of I don't know. And it's just my take on it. And the only reason I even went in depth to this is because I've been seeing a lot of different fishing channels talking about, the controversy. If you're not a bass tournament fisherman, there's no controversy with the Martins and what they're doing. It's just like when Jimmy Johnson and not necessarily Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus was caught. They added something to the spoiler, did this and that, and they knew it was cheating, but they were, bending the rules when the deflate gate with Tom Brady and all that kind of stuff, And then Tom Brady went on to be with the, oh shoot, I can't even think of the name, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and won the Super Bowl. And it's well, I don't know. So does adding a little edge, is that competing or is it cheating? That's up to you guys to decide. I don't plan on joining any bass tournaments. I do plan on fishing. I debated about it. I talked about it when I first came back out this season. I don't even remember the name of it, but there is that cheapest $1,000 unit, complete unit. You can get the transducer and the little unit for $1,000, and it gives you the ability to see one little angle of the live thing. And I thought about getting one just so I could actually have owned something that doesn't get out on the water and talk, give you guys and me also my take on it. But fishing with Matt, I don't know if I ever really dove into that. We basically used it. We didn't just stop and hound an area that we saw fish. We used it kind of like what you would side imaging. You kind of scan around like you're going along. You're like, oh, what's that over there? So I like it for the fact, just like I like the idea. I've never owned forward-facing sonar or 360. I love the idea of 360 when it first came out. I just never broke down and paid that much money for one, of having the ability to see what is coming up. Because, yes, you can always spot something and then, we'll circle back later, but you've already passed that fish, right? You went across it. And here's my take on that, and I'm just going to give you a real quick talk on that, because this bait right here, over, say this bait right here, I just have it in my head. The minute a giant, I'm talking the biggest bass in the pond, the lake, the river, the stream. The minute the biggest bass in there realizes there's a boat, now I've seen this, probably my little theory blown away. You're less likely to catch that fish. It's just already like, I know that sound, whether it's the pings of the sonar, the trolling motor sound. It's like, aha. So if you can get something to your advantage that, you're coming up and you can see, not necessarily the fish, but you're seeing cover, or just that maybe it's a little ripple in the, that goes out to 10 foot of water, and there might be a little bump on it or not, but it allows you to cast to it before you get to it, kind of thing, as opposed to when you run across it. Just the same way, I also feel that these brighter, more insane colored baits, they may catch you fish, and during any given right time, that big one may hit it. But I feel if you can intensify the color of your bait and still keep a sort of a natural look, also will give you the chance to catch the bigger fish in that given body of water, if that makes sense. So, and I've seen it actually even happen the opposite way, that just for whatever reason, the big dummies will jump in there and somebody will pop up and catch and I wouldn't even say that one doesn't look unnatural depending on what trailer you put on it, but there's just some of them colors out there that, in my opinion anyway, I think there's a bigger fish to be caught if you're just a more natural, intensified in whatever look you're going for with a more natural look. So I'm gonna give you an example. And that's where I kind of see the whole going across fish and then coming back like an hour later and hitting them or whatever. Because this is all I used to fish for years. I fished white, and I fished white and chartreuse. But honestly now, and I'm using chatterbaits. Spinnerbaits, I still kind of do this. But I feel that this bait right here, I like the idea of this bait here better. And especially when it gets just a touch of fade to it. But then over even this, and don't get me wrong, this probably can have a very natural look to it, but just in my mind, I like this over this. Probably not a bit of difference, but I just try to go with something that gives it just a more natural than just the craziest, brightest, boldest you can get, is just in my opinion. Now, I just said I was going to talk about chatterbaits at some point in time in this video, and this kind of applies to any bait. But as you guys have seen, the craziest, brightest, orangish, reddish square bills, this time of year especially, can whack them. And just like chatterbaits, there's nothing wrong with throwing this color, trying that color, and this color. And when they're really fired up, they'll probably hit this color. But I still, in my mind, I think that if I have this one with just some orange on the belly, I think my shot at the biggest fish is going to be on, if they say they're hitting this kind of range of color, is going to be on this guy, and before this guy. This guy may catch him too, but I mean, there's just times. The thing is, though, that maybe once a year you'll catch your biggest fish on the craziest color, no matter what it was. Maybe it was the brightest chartreuse and white you had or whatever. But I feel day in and day out, if you can get to a brighter color with a more natural look. Same thing as if you can go across the spot, up to a spot, and fish it before you go across it, you have a better chance of catching a bigger quality of fish, or that one big one, than circling back, even if it's 5 minutes later, hour later, or whatever. That fish, once. That's why I think early on, some days I feel that when I first, and this is from also been fishing small bodies of water, I feel that once I made a pass around a body of water I could fish in a day, my best shot was the first pass. After that, definitely numbers went down just because I'd already caught, fish out of the place. But then I feel like my chance at the big one was either then or of an evening. And I still have always felt that there's 3 times that you have 3 times during the day. The very earliest morning, the middle of the day when the sun is the brightest, the shadows are the least, And then the end of the day, when the shadows are actually the longest and the sun just starts going down, are the three like main windows, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. That's on places that don't really have a true, huge amounts of, once there's a shad spawn or they're chasing around big pods of bait fish, that could all possibly go out the window. But like bodies of water and fish that are just kind of how they staged on areas, not out staged on bait fish kind of thing. That's my take on it. So anyway, I guess I'll end this video. Did I cover anything? Nobody has any questions. A few of you are watching. Nobody's commenting other than Mature Fishing Guy. I would like to thank you. Also, thanks to Get Your Fish On. He said he subscribed to me. He's going to watch, get my take on this whole controversy, and wanted me to subscribe to him, which I hadn't yet, so I did. I think they have like 22,000 subscribers. We have just over 10,000. So if you're watching this now, this is the time. Hit the like button if you like the video. Hit the like button even if you didn't like the video. And share this channel with somebody that if you like them and you like the video, share this channel to them. If there's somebody you don't like, share this channel to them. Give them that information that's disinformation to you, right? But no, seriously. And if you haven't subscribed to Bass and Bonsai, subscribe now, because I know we're on a chatterbait kick here in the last, I don't know, month, 2 months. It's been a while. But I've covered everything. I've got tackle box full of stuff, just fun fishing, right? Going out bass fishing. Now, here's my latest, greatest invention, right? I invented this. No, I didn't invent this, but I did. This is my take on trying to make a chatterbait that is truly weedless. May suck, but we're going to try them. These are like a knockoff of the 6th Sense, I believe. But we wanted something with the weed guard. We wanted it to still be a true, and now I'll talk about this real quick in case you're new to the channel. This is a chatterbait. I know it's made by me. These are like kind of a copy of like Queen Tackle has. And I know it's probably going against all kinds of patents, and the Z-Man's probably going to try to sue me. But I'm just making these for myself. I'm not selling them or nothing. But so I wanted a kind of a cheaper alternative. The cheapest way you can go now really is like buying the cross eyes that just has the 2 guards. And after reading the comments, they work very well. But the 2 metal guards, I've heard by reading the comments on Tackle Warehouse that they're prone to, you will lose those before long. And they're like over $10 a bait. This bait can be had, if it works, as cheap as $2.50 on AliExpress, or you can just buy the 6 Sense ones, which are still only like $5 or $6. These can be bought for 20 for $8 from AliExpress. So you buy, if you want to stick with 6 Sense, buy those, buy these, whichever way. Queen Tackle sells them like 3 for $10. But you can add this to anything that's got the eye coming out like that, and instantly make your own chatterbait if it's directly connected. A bladed jig, which another bait I'll show you that I love, and let me get the right one. So we just now got another one again after having one for years. Omega Custom Tackle, in my opinion, makes the best bladed jig because they've added that separation. The swivel doesn't really do anything except it just lets this thing off. It's out here. It's out here and it's going. So if you struggle with hookups on chatterbaits, try this bait, because this blade's way out here. Even if it gets it in, it's just more likely to get out of the way, and that hook's going to dig in. So if you struggle with hookups, like you're like, Charlie, I get bit all the time with chatterbaits when I do try them, but I'm like, my percentage, like I'm lucky to get one in. Try the Rapture jig from Omega Custom Tackle. They put this way out here. One thing it lets it do, it lets it jump around probably more than any bait I've seen. You're still going to want to use a slimmer profile trailer to let it do that even more. This is called their Shell Cracker Custom from Trey Harple. Gold blade. My favorite color of that whole deal. It's the reason why you see all the bluegill chatterbaits you're going to be seeing our little famous Neo Dirty Jigs. Bluegill 2 is my favorite skirt that you can buy. You end up like $1 in the skirt. These baits are knockoffs of a jackhammer, basically, from AliExpress for $3 right now. I got mine all for $2.50 when they were on sale. But I took off the Fire Tiger, added that bluegill color. My favorite chatterbait period are these. Now, if you guys look, I've rigged this dude up. Same skirt, but this is a 5/8. That's a 3/8 ounce. This is a 5/8 Thunder Cricket, and it came from Rogers Sporting Goods because they were on sale for $5. A gold blade 5/8 for $5. I love these hooks, and I rigged this one up in this other color we hadn't tried yet. So I'm going for two different looks here. I'm going for that slow rolling crawdad on the bottom. You know, right now I'm still got that orange in there because I want that until it doesn't work, it works. So I've got orange on most of my baits. But then here I'm going for a true, like some kind of bluegill, shellcracker, panfish, something. Same thing with this, even though it's got the claws on the back. I'm going, you know, for like a bluegill. It could be anything, right? It's a crawdad bluegill. You guys have seen them. But if you struggle with the hookups and the bladed jig, any bait that they're calling a chatterbait, if this isn't directly hooked in like that to that eye that is on part of the like lead or tungsten, that's a bladed jig. It's a bladed jig. Z-Man made the chatterbait, and through patents or whatever, Strike King has been able to use this one. I don't know if they had to pay him money or just the fact that they have it mounted a different way. See, this is free floating, so to speak. Like it moves up and down. So there's basically got to be a shaft in there that it's hooked to. So technically, it's not hooked the same way that a Z-Man is, right? So that may be what gets away from it. But that is still a chatterbait because the contact it's going to make is more of a chatter than the ones that don't. So all the knockoff you're seeing, most of the Z-Mans are, the cross eyes is, and most of them, except some of the Freedoms, they're not what I call true chatterbaits. And then if they literally, I don't think I've got one. I was going to try to show you. If they have, let's try to find one so I can show you the proofs in the pudding. If you want to know if you've got a chatterbait or not, it takes you to use it other than just looking. So here is a true jackhammer, right? True jackhammer in a 1/2 ounce, B-Height Delight. It doesn't look like a B-Height Delight anymore. Perfectly sharp hook. It's probably 5 to 8, I don't know, however many years old it's old. But you can clearly look at the beating from the blade hitting up front and doing its wobbling, right? It's like chung chung chung, and it's just beating itself up on that. That's, in my opinion, can you catch him on a chatterbait that doesn't do that? Yes. A bladed jig that doesn't do that? Yes. But in my opinion, it's just like using a buzz bait that doesn't have the squeak. It's not, if for the true, what these baits were designed for, the Z-Man Original, let's use that one. This one's not an old one, so it's not marked off. The Z-Man Originals, that's what they did. They beat themselves on the thing. Once they get old, you can see where it's been beating. That is the key and why that bait has so many copies. Like there's just so many of them out there now. I think if the first one would have been made, honestly, like this, although this bait has its place, if they would have been made something like this and they called it a, you know, whatever they called it, a bladed jig, a chatterbait, it may still, there may be a few companies out there with them. It wouldn't be nothing like what it is now. I think on any given time, the jackhammer or ones that perform just like the jackhammer are your best bet. They're going to get the most bites. They're going to get the biggest bites. But when that bite is off, something like this is just like on. Now, same kind of thing, you could go basically downsize. So that the main bite, the main chatterbait deal may be off, but like you could go to this, the Stealth Blade, the little Mini Maxes, the Mini Max Evos, and then possibly other brands that are just bladed jigs. They don't have that harder thump. Sometimes those just kick in. But for me, I found this one, Omega Custom Tackle, the fact they move it so far off, you've done away with that whole hookup thing to where you need to kind of, I mean, you still want to basically, you know, don't change how you set the hook on a chatterbait. But when you do it with this one, it's just even more like your hookup ratio is way, if you struggle at all with the chatterbait, it's going to be better with this bladed jig. I mean, this is just, it's never the first bait I pick up. I want to see if they're hitting the big boys, the ones with the hardest thump. Honestly, the best thing to really do is throw that big blade. You know, get out there with whatever your favorite color big blade and just start throwing it, you know. Throwing it. If they'll hit it, catch them on the big blade. If they, you know, if it needs to slow down to until you get to, maybe it's a mini max, maybe it's one of those. But I kind of like to just get out there and start usually with like this. I'm kind of a finesse setup. Like even when I put my trailers on, I'm more of a, you know, short, and I just want it about like this one is. I want at least an inch to an inch and a half, and I don't want 2 inches. I don't like too much. I feel you're gonna get more short strikes. You're gonna get the less opportunity for the little ones that would have hit it. And I know you're like, well, Charlie, why are you trying to catch a little bass? I want to have the most fun I can. So I feel when you got a bait like this, because it's even a little smaller. Now I know you can't tell because I got the trailer on this one, but it just gives off a little smaller profile than a 1/2 or a 5/8 ounce in the 3/8 ounce. So let me try to, I don't know if I've got one around here. Let me see. Well, take my word for it. I don't know if I got one around. On these knockoffs anyway, and I think jackhammers may be kind of like that too. They just kind of, the 3/8 gives off a little smaller profile, and you could even make it a little smaller. You could still take off about a 1/2 inch of the skirting. You just don't want to come up beyond the hook, in my opinion. I've seen guys that do it and say they don't have a problem. I like to keep the skirting coming past the hook, but you can shorten it if you need to, and then bring your trailer, you know, whether it's an inch, inch and a half. I don't recommend going any further than that with any, you know, whatever you have. I like to, I want these to tickle the appendages, which in this case, I'm not necessarily worried about this appendage, which I've cut this up. This is a gremlin. It's this appendage here. So I don't want it to be hindered, which it already kind of is. I've been debating about just cutting these off and trying it like that. I'm just trying the gremlins because I bought some. I'm like, well, if I can make a Z-Man bait, a Z-Man, the buoyancy of the Elastec will kind of let you, even though this is 5/8, you're thinking one to opposite, but I want to get down, but then I may even want to stop this one occasionally. So this is kind of like in grass, but there's not like it's not like just so coated I'm swimming it across the grass. I'm kind of down in the grass, but the bottom is not horrible to where if I touch the bottom, it's going to instantly get gunked with muck. So I may want to skip, you know, hit the bottom, then chatter up, reel a little bit, give it a couple jerks, and then let it hit again. But then when I let it hit, I kind of want it to, have a little lift to where it still has a movement. When I do hesitate, it stopped. That kind of thing is what I'm going for with that one and this one. Even though they look similar, I'm fishing them roughly the same areas in a little different ways. But then my normal chatterbait fishing I do is usually shallower water. The minute the water starts getting a little deeper or the bank gets steeper, so like shallower, flatter banks, I love chatterbaits. Grass, no grass, rocks or not, I'll try chatterbait first. The minute that bank starts getting steeper, I like spinnerbaits, and then either square bill, if you can get it deep enough, or then go to like your, which we've been using those headhunter, the firetails. They're basically like a wiggle wart. That style of crank. And then once they get too deep, I either will throw a jig down at them, or I usually don't go to that big of a deep diving crankbait, just because it takes the enjoyment out of fishing. Like the minute you've got this huge rod and you're reeling and the resistance is so much that you're like, I don't want to do that all day. To me, I'm like, I'll just throw a jig out there, wiggle it around, maybe throw a shaky head. And if they're not out there hitting like that, I'm on to somewhere shallow in the bank. Now, should I do that? Possibly. And I've thought about buying at least an 8XD, 6XD. I've had them before, and I've fished them. My favorite thing that I fished that was sort of a deep diving one was the Freak from Rick Clunn. I had some of those. I probably still have some. And I mean, I can go out there. It's not fun, even when they're biting. I still have one of those. Here, let me get one out. Because it's kind of like this huge square bill, right? Because there's two reasons. It's no fun to fish that way, in my opinion, and you lose a lot of baits. You will be out there fishing and just doink, like, what is even there? Like, I've even, used it with my side imaging down scan. I'm like, it's not even showing anything, but you'll find that little something, maybe it's an old root that's not showing and your bait found it. I can't get it out. Here it is. So yeah, I like these baits, and they actually didn't work bad for me. You can probably see this wasn't my favorite color. It hardly got any use. But I've thrown, I don't know, I've got, I think I already broke my favorite. They can break. Like they work good. I feel they work pretty good, but I did break a few of them. Let me just show you that while we're on it. There's another one. So, and then I think I had more of I don't know. I had 4 or 5 at any given time is what I would, keep 4 or 5 different colors. I had the smaller ones, which I thought I would like, and I broke those, and they're all right. Well, here's one right here. I guess I hadn't. I thought I got rid of most of these. I guess I hadn't yet. So I even had the one painted in my favorite color. I don't throw this. I feel instead of this, I would much rather use like those firetail craws. I feel they get roughly to the same depth, and that used to be my favorite color, period. You guys remember me? If you follow the channel, I always talk about Norm Coulter. I don't even think he does custom painting. I think he makes his own baits, maybe, or he may be retired by now. But that color, I'd have him make some with the orange belly or without, and maybe I had a bunch of different baits made up. Now this isn't an everyday every color, but there's times a lot of bodies of water, like bass are cannibals. So this ain't the first year you've seen me, my first rodeo with worried about fishing baits with the orange belly. It's been a thing forever. That I forget the first dude I remember talking about it. I can't remember his name now. I remember a guy watching. It was a professional bass fisherman, and he was out. They were talking to him on his boat. He was talking about a river system that he was fishing. He goes, and he's talking in his southern drawl. He's like, "I always found that if I got something with a little orange on the belly, that they just hit it better." And I remember hearing him say that, and I'm like, yeah, he's probably got a point. Like, it can't hurt to have a little orange on the belly. Now, I think those baits all have too much orange because they work when they work, and then you need to do away with that. So some of my baits, now most of these now are new ones. All of these bluegill ones are new for this year, but you will see that orange come out. So like, this bait right here, I haven't touched it. That's the way it came. I just put I've touched it. I put this trailer on it, and I put this blade on it. And I think I might have slightly cut the top of that off. But the skirting is just how the color it comes. It's not my favorite, but I figured I'd try it. But I can tell you right now, I need to probably just leave a little tip of the chartreuse color is the way I like to do those when they come like that, the bluegilly ones. I like to do away with. For one thing, I don't think that looks natural. I go back to my natural talk. But I usually cut those off, and then if I get out there and say the whole spring's done, we're into summertime, I probably won't mess with it on this bait, even if I don't even know if this bait's going to catch anything. I won't like cover up the orange on the heads of them, but I will maybe pluck out some of the orange on some of the bellies. This one actually looks like it's probably kind of has that natural spread out look, but I think that looks unnatural to me. Just glancing at it, that looks unnatural to me. But I've just figured I'll leave it alone. Somebody thought that was awesome, so I'll try them and we'll see. And then this is just another version of now I'm tempted to change, like right now, I'm tempted to change these what I call the belly of the head to like more orange, or just do away with that white bottom, because it kind of goes away from that. I like, instead of that, I would much rather have something like that, or an orangish yellowish thing instead of just white. So it's a possibility I may do that, but I figured I would just try them the way they are. I've never fished this configuration, try it, and then adapt how it fishes. Same thing with these jigs. It's a good idea. Of course, black and blue. You can't ever go wrong with black and blue. You can change trailers to the colors. These are probably going to get, I kind of bought them just for the heads. These were only like $1.50 or something. So I'd have like swim bait heads, and I'll probably change. Honestly, these probably both will get changed to some sort of a naturally bait fish color. But I figured I'd try them first, especially now this time of year, if I can get out next weekend. Try that one, leave it alone, put like one of these, wherever they're at. one of these types of trailers or something on it and just throw it around with that orange. Try that bright color, you know, one of these, put like a, I don't know, I think I got a couple different colored baits that have like the Tackle Warehouse bluegill color on it. Maybe throw that. Or I could put a chartreuse tail or whatever. Try that one, just leave it alone, try it, give it a shot. But then I basically got these for the head color. Like I talked about, I may add orange on the belly of it, of the head, and then have like either a bluegill or just some kind of natural, kind of like a, so like this one started out as green pumpkin because I like the idea of green pumpkin, but then again, I don't. I like the idea of having something instead of just a green pumpkin chatterbait, having some version of a, you know, kind of like what they did here. I mean, yes, it's what they call bluegill, but it's not a big, you know, difference from there. You could also pluck those out of the bottom and just add a little light, you know, lighter green belly, and then add whatever trailer here. I darkened it up even darker. Just try different things. So anyway, I'm gonna end this video. I just thought I'm gonna leave that. Do not mix Elastec with regular plastic. You talk about a game changer. That'll stop your fishing real quick if with that bait. So anyway, if you have any questions, drop below. I just thought I'd get my little point across on my opinion on the whole take with Scott Martin, Roland Martin, the Martins in general. You know, is this cheating? Is that cheating? Is BASS on the rise or on the fall or whatever? I think they need to change up something with the forward facing and you know, with the rules, or I don't think it's going to go away, but I think that they may be in their little darker times until they figure out exactly what to do with all the controversy. You know, it's not the old Kardashian thing. Any publicity is good publicity. And it's just also the fact that it doesn't really matter to a lot of people. A lot of people are like, I don't care. I just go out and fish. That's what Charles is like. I don't care what they're doing. I'm just going to go out and fish. He goes, if I feel a need at any time I need to buy forward-facing sonar in order to catch fish, I might, but probably not. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Get out, go bass and bonsai, but whatever you do, make sure you have fun doing it. See you later.